In the previous video, I showed you basically all the information that you need to know in order to use factored form in order to graph a parabola. Some of you might be a little bit bothered by this because all I did was I showed you that R and S give you the x-intercept, so I didn't really explain why that would be the case. And so I thought that I would do a little supplementary video that just kind of showed you why that happens. So one thing that we know is that on a graph, wherever you have graphs crossing the x-axis, no matter where these points are, all the values are going to be x0. Because we're not going up or down on the y-axis, we know that the graph is always going to, or the x-intercepts are always going to be whatever the x-intercept is, and 0 for the y. So let's back up here for a second, and let's just start with that assumption. And let's just say, let y equals 0. That plunks us down on that x-axis. And let's see what the consequences of that are. So we have 0 equals a x minus r times x minus s. And now here's the part where a lot of people get a bit lost. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to divide both sides by a. A is not a factor here, right? A doesn't determine anything to do with the x-intercept, so it's not surprising that it cancels out when you divide it out from both sides. So you're left with this now. Now, remember that x is just a number. If it was 5, it would be 5 minus r, whatever that is, times 5 minus s, whatever that is. So it's just a number. And so each of these are just numbers. And if you want to get 0 when you multiply two numbers, let's think about the ways we can get that. So we'll do 5 as one of the numbers and 4 as the other. Well, that equals 20, and 20 is definitely not equal to 0. And let's do 3 times minus 19. Okay, well that's 40 minus 48, which is definitely not equal to 0. And we can pick any set of numbers, and we can find a whole bunch that are not equal to 0. Well, there's a certain condition necessary in order to get 0. I'll leave a little pause here so maybe you can get it yourself. What do one of these numbers have to be in order for us to get 0? Yeah, you get it? You see it? Okay, so one of them has to be 0. So 0 times 1,000 equals 0, or minus 19.415 times 0 equals 0. So either x minus r or x minus s has to be equal to 0. And that's only when we cement ourselves down on the x-axis. Okay? So what does that mean for us? Well, we have 0 equals x minus r times x minus s. And we said one of them has to be 0 if we're sitting on the x-axis. So x minus r equals 0, or x minus s equals 0. Now, if we add r to both sides, we get x equals r. And if we add s to both sides on the other equation, we get x equals s. And so we know that we're stuck on that x-axis. So both of these are x-intercepts. So therefore, the x-intercepts have to be equal to r or s. And there you go. You've got two x-intercepts. And that's the reason why factored form gives you the x-intercepts. So hopefully that helps you out if you were at all curious.